and there's only one senator who initiated a censure resolution of that criminal George W. Bush, and that is Senator Feingold. And no one supported him in the Democratic Party. So Senator Feingold is the measure of the cowardliness, of the complicity, of the surrender mentality of the Democratic Party. Now, you and I know a lot of least worst voters. They're all over the place. They say we can't tolerate another Republican administration. I agree. The question is whether we get one in Democratic Party clothing. And the least worst voter is a voter who sells his or her vote too cheaply. Whatever you do in the privacy of the voting booth, you should never signal your vote in April, May, June, July, August, September, when the pollsters call. Never signal your vote without conditioning it, without making it hard to get. Otherwise, the moment you become a least worst voter, your vote's taken for granted. You remember 2004 when the anti-war movement, burgeoning with bigger and bigger demonstrations against the war in Iraq, took the year off because they didn't want to embarrass John Kerry, who was asking for more soldiers in Iraq and told Bush on the first debate, we wouldn't have pulled out of Fallujah. He out-hawked Bush. He didn't have to worry about the anti-war vote because he knew he had it, because he knew they wouldn't vote for George W. Bush. Therefore, he became more of a hawk, more of a militarist, more of a bigger military budget. I am John Kerry and I'm reporting for duty. Remember that one? That really got him a long way. Wouldn't have made him a private first class. And so we have to ask ourselves very critically, when we see all these great progressive writers today, Bill Grider, Jim Hightower, Bob Kuttner, Katrina Vander Heuvel, when we see the writers for the Progressive magazine and Matt Rothschild, when we see Bill Moyers and Jim Lehrer and Charlie Rose all exclude third-party and independent presidential candidates who are sponsoring and fostering progressive agendas that are long overdue in this country, like single-payer health insurance, like living wage, like cutting the bloated military budget, like a massive solar energy efficiency conversion of our economy, like cutting away those corporate subsidies, handouts, and bailouts of Wall Street crooks, like a major funded crackdown on corporate crime, fraud, and abuse against worker pensions and investors and small savers. And we don't hear anything about our campaign other than ridicule, indifference, or ignoring us in the pages of The Nation and The Progressive and The Washington Monthly and in these times. And when we see them on TV, they don't mention Nader Gonzalez. They don't mention McKinney Clemente. And what are these candidates doing? All they're doing is taking the agenda of these writers inside the electoral arena, where the two major parties can be challenged, they can be contrasted, they can be pushed, they can be pulled, just the way La Follette did, just the way the Liberty Anti-Slavery Party did in 1840, the women right to vote parties in the 19th century, the labor, farmer, populist, greenback parties. They never won a national election, but aren't you glad that enough voters spun off from the Whigs and the Republicans and the Democrats and decided to support these small parties to put these social justice issues inside the electoral arena with visibility so people can see how our country can become and how our country can advance and be improved? Otherwise, my message to the Bill Griders and Jim Hightowers and Bob Kuttners and the people in these times and Matt Rothschild, the Progressive, and others is this: you're doing a lot of good work writing, You're doing a lot of good work lecturing. You're doing a lot of good work going on TV, being interviewed. But if you don't support those candidates inside the political arena, if you don't cross from commentary to electoral action, you are just baying at the moon. That's all you're doing. Baying at the moon and making you feel good. There's a reason why they called Bob La Follette Fighting Bob. Because he was a fighter. He was a dynamic tribune of progressive agendas for farm country, city country. He was a challenger of corporate power, the railroads, and the banks, and the emerging agribusinesses. Back in 2000, we were campaigning in southern Illinois with some young people. We were going through beautiful farm country with the farmhouse and the silos. And I said to them, you better take a good look at those. Because someday, your grandchildren are going to ask you, what was a small farmer like? What did a small farm look like? 4 years ago in an agribusiness newsletter, there was an editorial that was titled, Get Over It, Farmers. It's not going to be long from now when there are going to be 9 giant, vertically and horizontally integrated farm agribusinesses. And that'll be it. Is that the kind of America we want?
No!
And when you look at the domination of corporations over our government in Washington, we've been studying, fighting, challenging, working with, collaborating, suing these departments and agencies for over 40 years. Every department, every agency in Washington, including the Department of Labor, is controlled inside and out by corporate power. The sovereignty of the people has been trampled by the giant boots of corporate Goliaths. These giant corporations who were born in the USA and rose to profits on the backs of American workers, and when they got in trouble, they went to Washington and got bailed out on the backs of American taxpayers. And when they got in trouble overseas, they called on the U.S. Marines, and their message today to the American worker is, we're out of here. We're going to take your jobs and your industries and ship them to fascist and communist dictators overseas like China, who know how to keep their workers in their place, don't they? We have a country full of problems we don't deserve and solutions we do not apply. They're on the shelf. Whether it's energy, with solar energy and wind power as a top national mission, not just sprinkling along. Stopping nuclear power's resurgence. Nuclear reactors can never be built without 100% loan guarantees from you, the taxpayers, say the nuclear industry. So much for that capitalism. We've got solutions for affordable housing. Truman showed a solution for universal health care over 55 years ago. Still don't have it. Western Europe, in the rubble of World War II, while we were the most powerful country coming out of World War II in the world, the people in Western Europe, through their multi-party system, their proportional representation, their instant runoff voting, their trade unions and their cooperatives, look what they demanded and got for all their people that we do not have today, 63 years later. They demanded and got universal health care. They demanded and got decent pensions, living wages, paid 4 weeks vacation, decent public transit, university-free education, paid maternity leave, paid family sick leave, and laws that facilitated the formation of unions for all their people. And we got nothing. Nothing 63 years later. The two parties, the major Democrat and Republican parties, for 63 years haven't got any of that done. How many more years are we going to give them? How many more least worst voters are we going to deliver to them before we break up that two-party elected dictatorship that is the servant of their corporate paymasters and have a multi-party system and open up the presidential debates and have new presidential debates. Why are we rationing presidential debates? We don't ration weather forecasts or entertainment or sports.